the Zolkirs each represent a different school of magic: abjuration, enchantment, evocation, conjuration, divination, necromancy, and shit. I can't remember the seventh.
Hey, what's going on? This is Raiderlance and
FighterWizard.
FighterWizard. Jesse Pinkman is my wife.
Very good.
Now,
bitch.
Now, before you get insulted, I need to make you understand why I'm making that reference. Not that you're less intelligent. I mean, we all know that in the intelligence scale, you rolled this probably like a 17. But when it comes to lab processes and work ethic, well, you probably rolled a 5.
Bro, I worked till 10 o'clock last night in my lab. And I'll have you know, I can make meth. I have not made meth, but I have seen the formula and its procedure, and I am fully confident that I could make methamphetamine.
Okay, for those of the people who don't know us, here is why this is so funny. And we're going to get talking to Dungeons and Dragons, but FighterWizard chose scientists as his class for his character. I can't tell you the difference between a beaker and a Bunsen burner. And you're getting mad at me for insulting your science.
My name is my Dungeons and Dragons class.
So that's why I'm dressed like this ridiculous, just so I can take a jab at FighterWizard because I missed him so much.
It's perfect. Well done. Well done.
Thank you. I intentionally lost my hair just to do this. All right. If you guys can't see, I am burning up. So we're going to pause now. I'm going to get into my regular outfit, and then we're going to continue. Okay. That's a lot better. Now, for housekeeping, please like, share, subscribe. We need all the help you can give us. We want to keep growing. We want to keep bringing you more content, but we really need your help. You also check us out on Instagram. We got a lot of great content there. So we put that out a little bit faster. Now, today, we are going to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons, both near and dear to our heart, but more so for FighterWizard. Again, I already see him lighting up. And we both just watched Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. All right, so the layout of this episode is we're going to talk about what we liked. It's going to be pretty brief. What we didn't like, I'm going to go on a rant, and why it's important to us. So, FighterWizard, why was this movie so near and dear to your heart?
I would hesitate to say near and dear to my heart. What I will say is, and this has been said many times before, with Dungeons and Dragons as a film presentation, the bar is low. There was a Dungeons and Dragons movie that came out in the year 2000, starring Jeremy Irons and Marlon Wayans.
What the hell?
Yeah, Marlon Wayans as Snails the Thief. It was bad. It was very bad. Jeremy Irons chewing the scenery would be an improvement.
Hold on. Marlon Wayans. Name a good Marlon Wayans movie.
I can't think of many Marlon Wayans movies.
I mean, we're talking White Chicks. It's like
that was the first thing I thought
Marlon
of.
Wayans.
That was the first thing I was thinking. And the thing I remember most from White Chicks is Terry Crews and
yes,
what a delicious chocolate man. Yeah, Marlon Wayans movie sucks. Talented guy.
Yes, very talented.
He's in Scary Movie. Now that
okay,
may
fair.
not be a good movie,
Fair.
but that shit is funny.
Okay,
with
fair.
a National Geographic orangutan to do. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Okay, but why was the first Dungeons and Dragons so bad?
I'll give the terrible CGI a pass. The story was bad. The presentation of the world was poor. It was too cartoony. You can present the world as a cartoon, and if you have a good sense of humor and about D&D, as I'd like to think I do, as I think most players do, you understand what it is.
Sure.
But this went a little bit too far. Okay. The adherence to the source material other than mentioning like there's red dragons, there's gold dragons, a couple of spells are mentioned by name, like Feeble Mind. Mages are mentioned, and the fact that the two main adventurers are thieves and one's an elf. That's
it.
me
That's
mentioning
light.
those words is the extent to which the source material is presented.
Got it. Whereas opposed to this one, I'm assuming you felt was a lot better or true to the source material.
Really, yeah. That was one of the things I liked about it. So on its face, I found the movie enjoyable. I went in, like many other Dungeons and Dragons fans, hearing that A, it's much better, B, it's genuinely funny, and C, it's a good time. And those, all three things I found to be true. I thought them bringing some big name actors, Chris Pine, Hugh Grant.
Whoa. Big name actor Hugh Grant.
Former big name actor from the 1990s, Hugh Grant. He's a recognizable name. He's not like a marquee, like billboard salesman now, or billboard attraction now.
I will say seeing. I'm sorry. I will say seeing him in the movie did give me a hope that I'm one blowjob from a street hooker away from being in a D&D movie.
Again, the bar is low, so you too could be Ford's Fitzroy. So I guess we should like at least lightly address the plot. It's very much a pretty classic heist movie mixed with a D&D adventure. You have six distinct classes, four of whom are in the main party, one of whom it functions as your NPC, and then one of whom is one of the two antagonists in the story. You have he calls himself a thief. He's a bard. He uses no bardic magic.
Yeah.
A little bummed about that, but whatever.
Yeah,
Chris Pine's character. There. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I also appreciated. Edgin, Chris Pine's character, the bard, wasn't the focus of the story. His story served to like motivate the rest.
Right.
But other than that, it was kind of refreshing to see his character take a back seat to everyone else. Like he actually didn't have a whole lot of character development, which is fine. Yeah. So this party gets together. They find that they need more people to accomplish their goal. Their goal is to get the MacGuffin, which in this case is the token of remembrance, which is an artifact, an item, a magical item, we'll say, that can cast true resurrection one time, and that brings someone back from the dead. He wants to bring back his wife from the dead. His wife was killed by the Red Wizards of Thay. He used to be a harper. When he stole some gold, the Red Wizards of Thay, took revenge on that. He wasn't home. They killed his wife. He raised his daughter alone until he met Holga, in which case he raised his daughter with Holga. Eventually he and his party, which includes Simon the Sorcerer, Holga, Ford's Fitzroy, and Safina the Wizard, and himself, Edgin, they're betrayed. They're stuck in prison. Forge Fitzroy takes care of Kira, his daughter, and they escape with Safina. They eventually escape prison and try to go rescue Kira. Finds out that Forge and Safina betrayed him, and they're fine with killing him now. So, in order to maintain or attain the token of remembrance, they form a larger party with extra character classes: Dork the Druid and Simon the Sorcerer. They eventually meet a paladin, Zenk, and go on a series of adventures around the Neverwinter area in Faerun, which is my favorite area, the Sword Coast, or the Frozen North. It is along the Sword Coast. It is in the Frozen North, on the Savage Frontier. It's my favorite setting in all of Faerun. So I'm a little biased. They go to different little landmarks if you know the map, and then eventually end up in Neverwinter, where there's a showdown. It's a well actioned and kind of an entertaining adventure little yarn in that city, and then giant big battle at the end. But because of all of that, because it was set in the setting that I actually like from Faerun, the city, even the region of the world in Faerun that I enjoy, and because it includes a lot of the parts of the Forgotten Realms that I truly like, sorcerers are almost always my characters, or fighters and wizards. The Red Wizards of Thay, I think, are a wonderful story element in the Forgotten Realms. Druids are cool. Wild Shape is cool. Bards, I've never been a bard player. Some people love it. And barbarians, they're always kind of meh to me, but Holga the Barbarian was fucking great.
Gosh, it was amazing.
So all of this combined, and even the names I just mentioned, those are really integral to the Faerun Forgotten Realms setting of D&D. And for me, they adhered very closely to the source material. I had a lot of fun identifying, the different classes, the different abilities that, the druids, Sophia Lillis's character can do, the spells. It was just a good time. It was a heist movie set in the D&D world. And that is, that's why I enjoyed it. I had fun from the D&D nerd aspect. I had fun from the fact that it was just a good banter movie with some genuine moments of humor. And yeah, that's I can't ask for more. My daughter liked it, and she thinks I'm a dork for playing D&D. She's correct.
I will say, all right, and I'll get into it in the next part, but the movie did grow on me the longer it went on. So fortunately, it was a 2.5 hour movie, because it took probably half of it for me to get there. What I will say is I actually did identify some of the spells too. I was like, holy shit, that's a magic missile. Holy shit, was it Maelstrom or is it Meteor Storm? I always forget which one.
Meteor Swarm.
Meteor Swarm. Thank you. I like that they had a black dragon spitting acid. I thought that was really cool. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. So I will say it was enjoyable from that aspect. Another thing I liked, shockingly, they had a decent couple action sequences.
Yes, they did.
The sword fights and the fight where she was, Mrs. Fast and Furious, the warrior. I'm assuming she was a warrior. They didn't call her out by name.
She's a barbarian.
Oh, I forgot about that. Okay. No, that totally makes sense.
She is a warrior, yes. But yeah. Yes, so Michelle Rodriguez's character, when she really went against type in this one, where she played a strong, combat-oriented, angry-ish female or woman. It was really refreshing to see her in this role.
I think she did mix it up though, because now she used potatoes, right, as weapons.
That's true.
We hadn't seen that before.
Exactly.
Yeah,
she used a lot of improvised weapons. No, she had some great kind of Jackie Chan-esque fight sequences. I thought, to be honest with you, Holga, Michelle Rodriguez's character, Holga the Barbarian, was really the glue of a lot of the movie. She was great. She was a definite anchor point for me.
Yeah, I did not see that coming. I thought it was just going to be your typical, I hate to say nowadays, it's the female who's just stronger than everybody and shows all the guys that a female can do it just as well. And I was like, oh no, this is a legit character, right?
Yeah.
She wasn't just the enforcer by far.
Which I think is a much more powerful representation of women, other than this ham-fisted, I can do it just as well. Like, no, that's not her part of the story. Is not demonstrating that she can do it just as well. Her part of the story is to be the warrior. And by being integral in that nature, it presents her as her presentation is that much more important if you were to look for that.
Yeah, I respected the fact that they made her vulnerable in multiple scenes of the movie.
Absolutely. Yeah, she was a fleshed out character.
Yeah, beginning, middle, end. There are all scenes where she was completely vulnerable and, showed a non-warrior side to her, which made her have something to fight for, in my opinion. So I thought she was a fantastic. Again, though, the fight scenes, very impressed. Those stunt actors, man, they made the movie by far. Quick question though: when her axe was kept in the fire,
smelted iron,
the smelter,
forge? We're blacksmiths, so we can really hit the terms.
Yeah. Did they just carbonize it and she liked the look, or did it give it some, +2 to damage or something like that?
To be honest with you, man, I would have thought it kind of destroyed the temper on the blade.
I'm thinking,
So when I was 14, I was camping with some friends, and did a purple nurple or something to me. So I'm like, I'm gonna get you back. And I left a knife that I had in the fire for some time. And then I took it out and I slapped it on his leg. And I'm assuming to this day, because there was a decent burn scar. Now, he should have kicked my ass, but he didn't, because I think he knew he could. I burned the fuck out of him with just the tip of the knife. I didn't stab him, but I put the side of the blade on it, the flat.
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah. That destroyed that knife. Destroyed it.
What makes it malleable? Yeah.
Yeah. I was probably like any kid. I was, throwing my knife. It was not a throwing knife. And blade snapped off quickly.
Yeah.
So I'm very biased for all of those reasons to liking this movie. So with all of that, plus the fact that it was entertaining, I had a good time. I watched it twice. I'll happily watch it again. I'm sure that I will.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
So what didn't you like?
Do you by chance happen to know what budget they were working with? Because I might be too hard on this movie.
I do not know what budget I have. I do not know what criticism you're about to levy. I think I've heard it from other reviews, but please go ahead.
Felt like I was at a Renaissance fair.
I can see why you may have considered this.
Yeah. And, it's fun and it's a good time. And unfortunately, we're all used to Lord of the Rings and Marvel epic movies. And, it felt a little small. The world felt a little bit small from that perspective.
That's a very good point.
I think the sets, I would assume they were filming in New Zealand with a lot of the shots that they had of, land and sea and all that. It was absolutely beautiful. But the sets were small.
The sets were pretty small and they didn't feel lived in.
Yeah. And they just filled it out with CGI. It felt kind of like a Star Wars prequel set type of a thing.
Yeah, that is a fair criticism. It's pretty harsh once you included Star Wars prequels in it, but let's leave 2 and 3 out of this because I actually like those movies. We can put all the blame squarely on episode 1. Yes, I agree with you. So I think part of the appeal of the Star Wars universe, especially as presented in the originals, episodes 4, 5, and 6, is that the universe, and this was very much George Lucas's intention when making it, is he wanted the universe to feel lived in. Tatooine is dirty, is gross, and you can tell that people have been there forever because everything is begrimed with sand.
Yeah, yeah.
In this movie, Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, Neverwinter looks like it has just gotten a fresh coat of paint. Every cobblestone is gleaming in the sun.
Looks like Disneyland.
It looks like this. That's very fair. The Renaissance Festival comparison, I think, is appropriate.
Yeah, I will say a lot of people are moving towards CGI for creatures, right? And of course, in this movie they had to for the dragon, for the owlbear. But I was a little bit surprised, they did use, it looked like puppets for other creatures. For some of the judges, the arbiters or whatever they were called.
Jonathan.
Yeah. I actually like that. And it's because I'm so old. I'm used to I think it's the Dark Crystal and, Henson and all that stuff, right?
Where all the Muppets walk like this.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I think the movie Underworld, at least the first one, did a fantastic job as well. The movie Aliens, so I like that I like that they tried. I really do like that they tried.
I would agree with you. So when you mentioned the arbiter, Jonathan, I agree that I think it's nice that they had a practical effect. I think Jonathan was a particularly poor representation of that. When they did the creatures with practical effects,
the beggar,
the dragonborn beggar, you could see the seams on the costume, and it was a bit. It wasn't as well executed as it could be.
I wish it was more like Underworld, right? Use a little bit more shadows. Don't have them in the bright light where you can see all the the costume.
Well, it was a bright movie. The movie had some definite charm and whimsy to it. It wasn't one, despite some of the themes. There wasn't a whole lot of blood and guts and death. In fact, there was very little.
Sure, other than the massacre, but
okay, but that happened a while ago.
Flashback doesn't count. Okay, got it.
So one thing that I did not like about the film was I enjoy Dungeons & Dragons very much. I am a DM. During the COVID pandemic, the lockdown, my friends and I, some of my friends and I started a D&D campaign that continued for the better part of a year and a half, 2 years. And it was about Red Wizard of Thay in Neverwinter.
Okay, so of course you're
whom wanted, oh, absolutely. One of whom the goal was to use an artifact to annihilate the populace. So when I saw this, I'm like, well, okay, granted, my story idea wasn't great, but damn it.
Copyright infringement.
Yeah.
All right, so give me a little bit of background of Red Wizards of Thay. I mean, I never got that far into D&D where I knew specific wizards. And
So Red Wizards of Thay are human by definition. So Thay is a country far to the east of where this story takes place. This story takes place on the western coast of Faerun and the Sword Coast, specifically in the northwest. Thay is very far east. I'm not 100% on my distances on the Faerunian map. We'll say, I don't know, 1,000 leagues. For other nerds, think the difference between Winterfell and King's Landing. That said, Thay is a country that exists on the Thayan Plateau. It is ruled by a council of wizards called the Eight Zulkirs. The Zulkirs each represent a different school of magic: abjuration, enchantment, evocation, conjuration, divination, necromancy, and shit. I can't remember the seventh. Oh, fuck, that's going to kill me. Illusion. Ugh, I never play illusionists anyway.
Yeah, no.
Lame. Why believe something that happened when you can do it in your make-believe fantasy world?
But they had the Illusion Panther in this movie.
That is a Displacer Beast. And yes, they do. And thank you for making him an Illusion Panther, which I will now never forget. Illusion Panther sounds like a gay magician or like a sassy jungle-themed drag queen.
Sorry, I ruined it for you.
No, it's cool. I'm going to think of that every single time now. Yeah, Illusion Panther.
Yeah, that why was it projectors, Venus flytraps? I just looked at that and like, this is one of the most ridiculous.
Well, the Displacer Beast is a
seen.
panther with 6 legs. It can create the illusion of itself by casting the spell Displacement, and it has weird tentacle things. I don't know the stats of the monster that well.
Yeah, well, clearly it rips ass. So,
but yeah. Let's see. Thay is, what else is Thay? It's ruled by the Council of Eight Zulkirs. The Red Wizards of Thay are the de facto ruling class. They are, I think if you're playing a Red Wizard, the requirement is that your alignment has to be non-good.
Oh, of course.
You have to be human. Red Wizards in general, Thayans in general, shave their head. Tattoo magic is big among Thayans, which is why I really appreciate that they are all tattooed. Zastam is the most powerful and always attempting to be the ruler of Thay. In some stories, he becomes that. He is undead. He's the Zulkir of necromancy. He's a lich. And yeah, Thay is generally a place of just considerable evil. Thay and wizards do not mind enslavement. They'll raise the dead, including, dear old departed mom or whomever.
Oh, wow.
And they're perennially at war with the Rishemi, which I think is to either the northeast or the southeast of them. Wait, sorry, northwest or southwest of the Thayan Plateau, but whatever. They're the big bad evil wizard guys.
So, man, it really does sound like this movie held to the source material. I mean, I was really, really happy about that. The Horn of Beckoning that Safina and Zastam discussed, that's an artifact in D&D. That's amazing. I was going to ask you about the helmet of Disjunction.
Yeah, I don't remember what the Helm of Disjunction is specifically, but their discussion of the spell Mordenkainen's Disjunction is 100%. I believe that's a ninth level dispel version of dispel. It's the most powerful dispel in the game. It can be a game-breaking sort of thing. It can deplete artifacts of their ability to be an artifact. It can dispel magic items and any other enchantment that happens to be in place. So yeah.
That was fantastic. Another part with the enchantment on the sword, how each one of them had it. I think Thayan had the enchantment with the green fire.
Oh, yeah.
Now, normally I would have thought that was an acid enchantment, but
Flame Blade.
Was it Flame Blade? Okay.
Yeah. So he got Flame
Blade?
Yeah, sure. Why not? It looks cool. Okay. Yeah, there's Flame Blade, and then Zinx, I believe it's probably called Holy Avenger.
Okay.
Where you turn the sword you're using into a Holy Avenger.
Well, here's one problem I had I was very happy that they had a paladin. I liked the character, even though he was perfect in every way, which was kind of I
But
mean,
they made fun of that too. They also, I mean,
that is true. That is true. When he
they
was
called him out for being like, except talking to you. Talking to you isn't fun.
yeah, no, I did burst out laughing a couple times unexpectedly. I think I woke up my wife once or twice, especially when unnecessary scenes too. The paladin's walking away, and is he going to go left? Is he going to go? Nope, he keeps walking straight right over it.
Yeah.
Like unnecessary poking fun at characters. I love
Sure.
it. Here's my problem with the paladin. So again, we're spoiling the hell out of this movie. If you haven't watched it by now, too bad.
You practically watch it now.
So he fights all these undead. They come right back to life. They're super hard to kill. The dragon comes, and they can't. The undead are running away from the dragon because he's a big baddie, right? They're going to have this huge issue fighting this fat dragon.
Yeah.
Fat dragon chews him up, eats him up. No problem. So here's my thing. Paladin has hard time killing undead. Dragon easily kills undead. Paladin kills a dragon with one stab wound to the skull?
I agree. Well, the dragon wasn't dead. It did come back, but I agree. Like we can couch this in the devastating critical mortal wound / rule if we really want to get D&D with it. I think it was just a cool part. But yes, I agree. Like
maybe I would like to chalk it up to bad writing. Just stab him in the eye, the thing goes blind, and you get away. Like you're not doming a massive red dragon with your sword.
Yeah. Well, so Zink's character is, they acknowledge this in dialogue too. He is better than at the rest of the party at everything. He's a better fighter. He's braver.
True.
He's smarter.
True.
So he's the NPC that the DM brings along, like, because his PCs can't solve this. Like, okay, you need an NPC.
Sure, but a longsword cannot pierce dragon skill like that. I don't care what enchantment you have.
It would have to be quite the longsword.
Yeah.
And I'm going to suggest that at the point where it can dome the red dragon, it's a great term, it probably would have cleaved and left dead the undead that he fought previously.
That's what
it's a good point.
I'm just saying they had a good thing going. It was a great chase scene. It was fantastic. Mm-hmm. I think they ruined it.
So based on your criticism and what you didn't like, you seem to have liked it pretty well.
I liked it more than I thought.
So where does the real dislike reside for you?
The movie took quite a bit of foreplay to get going. I'm just saying that first half an hour, I was not in at all. I did not care about the story. I did not care about the wife dying. I did not care about them being in jail. I did not care that he lost his daughter. I did not care about anything because here's, and this may be a bias, here's my problem. The first opening scene to me was false advertisement. They have this big beast in this huge jail that was like similar to the Guardian of Galaxies-esque jail that they were put in. To me, they were trying for a Game of Thrones filling. And then they immediately turned it into a comedy.
You felt a bit swindled?
Yeah, I thought I was in for some gritty Game of Thrones D&D, right? And you could have a couple jokes here and there, but they went from this big, massive CGI set, grimy. This guy is, going to attack one of the main characters, and they instantly turn it into a comedy routine. And then the next scene is them trying to get pardoned, and they turn that into a bigger comedy scene, which was a great one where they're jumping out the window. But we pardoned you. What are you doing? Yeah. Fantastic. I just think it was a bad setup for the movie. So then for the next half an hour, I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? And the only time I felt like it really got good was when they started assembling the party. When they brought in the sorcerer. When they brought in the druid. I like the druid a lot. Favorite character in the whole movie.
Yeah. I didn't necessarily enjoy the overlong backstory, but the moment that the sorcerer, Simon, casts fog cloud as they're escaping from some heist. And at that point I said, I know that spell. My sorcerer cast that spell. I'm in. So I will agree with you, and that's a criticism I have of the movie's execution is it goes all over the fucking map. Which maybe
Yeah.
it's a nod to D&D fans where like, oh, I know what the city of Tribor and Longsaddle and Neverwinter and Icewind Dale are. That's very cool. Icewind Dale's not a city, but it's a bit too much. It becomes disjointed after a while when they start in Icewind Dale in the frozen north, and they have to go through Icewind Dale over the spine of the world, which is a mountain range at the far northwestern edge of the map. To I think they talk about Tribor, they go to Longsaddle. I think they get Simon and Tribor. They go to Neverwinter, and that they go to some burial ground in Evermore's. Just like, whoa. First of all, you're on horseback, so that's going to take a while to get to. Two, I know that map well enough to know that fucking takes a long time, like game time. But I did enjoy that when they were in these different places, they made sure to meet in a tavern, because a tavern is like the DM's or any video games, like half-assed attempt at like, all right, where's everybody going to meet? Like a bar. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the criticisms or kind of jokes about D&D is that when you travel 1,000 miles, it takes 10 minutes of game time. When you have a fight with two different people, it takes an hour and a half.
True.
And it's true. And that sort of thing happens. I appreciated the Easter eggs, and
Sure.
And I don't think the producers and directors were necessarily fans of D&D, but it's clear that they had input from people that were. At times it felt, and I hate to say this, laid on a little thick. Like the maze, I think, was a little much. Like, okay, you get the Displacer Beast, and there's your gelatinous cube, and there's your mimic, and here's treasure chests in a maze. I'm like, and I get what they're trying to do, but it like, okay, you can dial it back a little bit.
Well, so here's a question. Obviously, their targeted audience was D&D players, but was it young children? Why do you think they were taking that position in making this movie?
I thought what they made was a pretty safe, middle of the road shot that seemed to thread a lot of different demographics fairly well. So my daughter is 6.5 years old. She liked that movie. She thought the barbarians, when they got dug up and when they cast the spell Speak with Dead, she thought that was funny. My husband thought it was a pretty fun time. He thinks I'm an enormous dork for playing D&D, and he has no interest in knowing anything about it. That's great. But he enjoyed the movie. Like, he looked forward to finishing it. So I don't know. I think they just tried to aim for something that was broadly appealing as a D&D centered movie could be. And then somewhere along the way threw in just a shit ton of D&D references to appease people like me.
Yeah. I think it was safe. I think it could have been a better movie if they had taken risk. Like if they actually did go down the Game of Thrones, route of getting more gritty, more grimy. I think they could get a different audience, but you would lose all the kids, right?
True. I think that would be for a good, interesting movie. I think that would maybe be a little bit more difficult to pull off. Because I think, well, I mean, not that I can produce a movie, but I think you just have to much more lightly touch on the universe source material than cleave to it hardcore. Like you wanted to, I don't know.
No. I mean, to me, I'm not saying that they're going to do this or they should do this. To me, it sounds like you have so many scripts pre-written for you in all these different campaigns, right? You just do live action campaigns.
Yeah, I believe one of them, it's never far away. Here's my player's handbook.
Right.
Here's my dungeon master's guide.
Right.
Here's all my notes that I take for my campaign. And speaking of ready-made campaigns, here's Princes of the Apocalypse, Journey into the Temple of Elemental Evil. There, boom, you got a movie. You're absolutely right. I've got another one in my bedroom.
They did it with all of the Lord of the Rings, all of the Hunger Games, all of the Harry Potters. I could go on and on and on. it just seems to me like after Game of Thrones, you can do a gritty version of this, right? That's like the apex predator of medieval themed storylines. Uh, I would love for someone to take a risk and do that.
Do you think that Lord of the Rings, source material aside, do, do you think that was sufficiently gritty? Because it's grittier. I mean, well, it's not gritty, but it's darker.
I would say when Lord of the Rings came out, it was gritty enough. After Game of Thrones, it's a different ballpark. Now, if you did Lord of the Rings now, people would look at it like it was a D&D movie. Right? Because now they have Game of Thrones to compare it to. And I think Game of Thrones kind of went too far. Like the flayers. Like we don't need that. We don't need, I can go on and on, but we don't need siblings going at it every episode, or family members every episode. So I think it went way too far for my palate. But I think you can have what was that movie with Antonio Banderas with all the Vikings?
13th
Warrior? 13th Warrior.
13th Warrior.
Right? Like, I think you can go there.
That's
people
good.
like that movie, and it was a horrible movie.
I like that movie, and it was a horrible movie.
Yeah, you can have that level of grittiness in a D&D movie with, better CGI, better campaigns. I mean, you got these stories pre-written. So all you have to do is just bring in these story writers to punch it up and make it better.
That's a good example because I've only seen that movie once, but I remember it bare bones well enough. And I mean, the set pieces were pretty good, but I don't remember them leaning too hard on the CGI. Not that they could because of when it was made.
Yeah. No one really understood what was going on, but it was awesome.
Sure. Yeah.
And the fight scenes weren't even that great.
No, but it was still dramatic and fun. And I mean, we're not going to think too hard about Antonio Banderas. He is Spanish, correct?
Yes.
Okay. A Spanish man subbing his rather pronounced Spanish accent at the time, at least, and like letting that pass, like Hollywood pass as a man from the Middle East.
Yeah. Who found his way to Vikings. And these dudes were like legitimately Viking sized.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah. And like the small Viking had that awesome scene where like he throws a fight and then absolutely just slices the guy's head off.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway,
I think if they did something with that level of grit and true to the source material, like, okay, so my favorite part of the movie was the stagecoach heist part.
Yeah.
And the final fight scene. I thought it was going to be, just ridiculous. But the amount of CGI they did, everybody jumping in and using their powers differently to try to get at her. I was like, that's what you're supposed to do in D&D. Everybody attacks it from their positioning, right?
100%.
From their class. Yeah, and so I thought they did a fantastic job with that. So I think if you use that type of CGI, maybe a little bit bigger budget, the grit of, a more adult theme, I think you can make a fantastic D&D movie.
That's a good point. Yeah, you had a rather dark story about the annihilation of innocent people in a city, which had already occurred several hundred years prior in a different country. And on that spine, you built a much lighter execution of a movie. But that's a good point. Yeah, it's kind of like savory and sweet.
Yeah, a fun adventure around preventing this horrible thing from a race who tend to do this every, century or two.
Yeah.
So
I will say it's that last fight scene. Absolutely loved it. And I really loved it. I was like, oh, it's this spell. It's that spell. My only criticism walking away from it was like, look, she is a 9th level wizard. Or she's not a 9th level wizard. She's at least a 17th level wizard capable of casting Meteor Swarm.
Right.
She is Odaluk's Resilient Sphere, Finger of Death. She, I think, Misty Step at one point. Bigby's Grasping Hand. All these different spells. Slinging them left and right.
Mm-hmm.
There is no fucking way she should have lost that fight.
No. And I'll tell you why.
Feeble mind, horrid wilting. Done.
She spotted the druid when the druid was a fly in the room. She could not sense someone was invisible in the room.
Thank you. I mean, that scene was fun. And it was like, oh, okay, cool. You got out of it. But like, okay, look, you had time stop and you had meteor swarm. Time stop alone gives you the win.
Wait, what fucking father allows his daughter to be part of this plan while meteor storm is happening?
This is a fair criticism. I also felt it like, wow, that's pretty risky letting your 12-year-old daughter sneak up on someone who can murder a
dodge all these meteors while this is going on. I was like, at least put her in leather armor or something. She's still wearing a gown? Really?
Yeah, that's right. Wearing a gown with a necklace. I don't think she's leveled in fighter yet.
Yeah, no, not at all.
She's still at commoner with 6 hit points.
Well, you can tell we're both nerds when it comes to D&D. No, I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. So I have to apologize for all the horrible things I said about that movie my first 30 minutes in.
No. I was actually looking forward to having a more distant opinion from my own, but you pointed out a lot of things that I didn't think about that made the movie more effective for what it was. And again, it was just nice that it didn't take itself too seriously. I think D&D is best when you have people who are really invested in the game, but that understand that it's a bunch of adults sitting around a desk playing pretend with dice, it's all it has to be.
Yeah, this is a high budgeted Renaissance fair.
It felt a little bit too Renfesty for me. I will absolutely agree. All right, so as far as why this is important, I think we kind of already said it. We started off, I believe, with we thought we were on different opposite ends of the spectrum, maybe not opposite end of the spectrum, at least different parts, different places with our enjoyment of the film. As far as why it's important, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's important. I do think it's a good representation that you can have a good, for the most part, well-executed story film set in the D&D world that appeals to a broad audience. And I think that's the best you could have hoped for.
I would agree. I want to see how well it does in the box office and in the digital sales. I don't know if it was worth it financially for the studio. I hope so, because this is a great little run. And they can make a bunch of independent movies, right? It's not like a trilogy or a storyline that they have to keep following. They could just have these come out every couple of years and make and make the studio some money.
Yeah. It'd be nice if it actually didn't form a universe. It's kind of a bit painful when everything has to be like, oh, cool, it's a universe now.
Where everything's leading together. No, I think they could just have, I will say another thing I liked about the movie is they used a lot of the terminologies. We're going on our quest and we're building our party and stuff like that. So, I think they could build another party and go on another quest and end it there, right? The story ends there. Now it's another adventure for another party. It'd be fantastic. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. Hopefully you learned a little bit about D&D. And if you don't want to play D&D with people, just go play Skyrim. It's pretty much the same thing. So if you guys are willing to listen, we are willing to talk. Catch you later.